Why do they keep making these characters in ways which no fan can ever recognize who they are? Hey, what's up, nerd fam? This is your boy Gashawn. I want to welcome you to Into the Nerd. So today, something that's kind of frustrating that I've been seeing is happening quite a bit, specifically in adaptations from fictional written works, usually comic book stuff, and then other stuff like video games as well, where they take characters who have looked a certain way traditionally, whether that be certain race, gender, costume, whatever. They look a certain way, and then almost make them unrecognizable, which doesn't make any sense, right? Because you know the fans of whatever material you're talking about are looking for a character to look a certain way because that is what they've been brought up to recognize, right? That is what they've been seeing, right? And it doesn't matter. It could be something that you consider very trivial. It's part of the character design, right? And there are some really recent things we can go over, and some things that are not like as recent, but still just adds to this. I don't know why they're doing it, right? So some of the more obvious things that you've ever heard me talk about are a lot of like the race swaps, right? Which doesn't make any sense because when a person, I'll give you one, like this whole Wesker thing. You see Albert Wesker, we know what he's looked like in the games, right? And even in the video game movie adaptations, we saw how he looked like. But now they're making this new Netflix show where he's clearly doesn't look like that, right? And if a person has never played the games and they go look up the games, they're gonna see somebody who doesn't look like that. So it's cheap. It doesn't make any sense. Like, why not make like Lance Reddick, that actor, is extremely talented. Why not just give him an whole original character that actually takes place within the Resident Evil arc, and then tie that character in later with the games? Makes sense, right? You could that sounds like a good idea. Instead of making a character who we know to look like this for over 10 years to look like, come on. And we see it, but we see this a lot. We see this with when it comes to like the bending thing. We see like Starfire, right? Now here's the thing. Starfire's not even human. It doesn't even matter that the actress is black. That's fine. But make her skin orange because the character is not even human. The character's not human. And when you hear the response to that, people go, well, it takes away from the actress if you make her skin a different color. It's not about her. She's portraying a role, correct? Look at Gamora. Zoe Saldana isn't actually green, right? But the character is. So they just, first off, her costume was crazy in the first Titan. Now they decided to give her a more comic book accurate one, but she still does not look like Starfire, nor does her sister Blackfire. They are both from a different race of beings who do not look like that. So they are not recognizable. They don't look like that. Now, this is not only with race swaps, even though this like the race swapping thing does happen, like when it comes to like the Jimmy Olsens of the world. They've even done it with a couple characters from the Black Adam movie that's coming up. Like they like to do this a lot. But then even within the same race, they just make some of these characters unrecognizable. So let's take Suicide Squad right now. Bloodsport. Bloodsport is black in the comic, but you would never know that that's who this character is when you look at how his design is. He doesn't look anything like the original. Now, I'm not saying that the original one, he had to look exactly like that because it's a bit dated. It's something that makes sense for the fact that he was going into the Vietnam War. But the color scheme, nothing. You couldn't, like, nothing even harkens back to that class. Look, you can't even tell who this character is. Like, when I first saw it, I was like, who is this? Is this like an offshoot from who he was in that Fast and Furious movie? What the hell is this? But it's what happens when the design teams are like, what can I bring to this? Versus, how can I, I can still bring something out of my own flair, but how do I make sure that these fans can actually still recognize the character that they like, right? Even, let's just say if Superman had blonde hair and blue eyes. We know him to not have blonde hair and blue eyes. We know what he looked like. So for them to make a little change like that, it's one thing if it was like, oh, this is a multiverse, blah, blah. And even that's lazy. But we know what the characters look like. You know what these characters look like. That's the thing. They make it seem like if people are just stupid. Like, you have no idea what these characters look like. You know what they are. Just stay to the design. Even when it comes to this new Supergirl they have in this Flashpoint movie. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Number one, this costume is clearly based off the Superboy costume for Future State, right? Now, some people are saying that she's getting her, like the influence of her being from Cyril. That's what Cyril looks like. Black suit, red S, got the legs showing, right? Now, even if they don't want to go with the legs showing, they can just make it a kind of a unibody suit, all black with that. Still would look better than what we got here. Would look better. It's not recognizable. What is this? Right? The costume looks pretty wacky. It's like those weird, like 3D printed costumes that I could get, like I get from online. Not something that is on like a multi-million-dollar budget, right? It just, this doesn't look good. And it's not recognizable to anything you've seen. It's just not. This is a problem. Why does this keep... I'll give you another example. James Bond, right? Now, mind you, I have to get put on to the because I'm not a big James Bond. I haven't read like Ian Fleming's like novels or anything like that. But like my boy was telling me about it. He's like, yo man, like this is this whole lore that goes behind it, not just the drinks, but everything he's saying. Like, you know, what happened with his wife. All these like things that happened that have been lost in translation when it comes to the adaptations. And Daniel Craig, a lot of people were complaining about him because of how far off the reservation he goes based off of the classical nature of how he is. And that's why a lot of people had that thing. Now, mind you, they're both white, but it's just that when people are looking for certain characteristics, which what made them love a character, and you take it all the way to the side, some people have an issue with that. Now, people like me who didn't read the novels or don't really understand some of these things might not see the big deal of it, but I understand because, think about it, I'm a comic book guy, and multiple times we watch our videos, I'm a big stickler on source material. So I'm not gonna get at somebody else for being the same way. So I definitely understand that. It's just I don't understand why they do stuff like that. Like, what is this whole thing about making a character completely unrecognizable? And once again, it happens in multiple different ways. It could be a race change, gender change, or just even if those two things are the same, just changing the costume and changing their look to a point where they don't even look like the character anymore. Like, what's the whole point? They're doing the same thing with Titana. They're doing that with her too. They're changing how she looks. Apparently, redheads aren't allowed to exist. I don't know what that's about. I've seen multiple things about that. I'm not really sure what they're doing with that. But yeah, they love that, and I guess a lot of people cheer this stuff. Some people just don't know. They don't know how these characters look, and I don't blame them. But then some people do cheer on these like weird swapped versions, and that's actually obviously lazy because once a person looks up, you know, the past version of that character, like, oh wait, like for example, my boy Hannif had this same reaction to Isaac in Castlevania, and he was like looking for this character, and he realized, oh snap, this character's been white in the games. Once again, people who play the games know what Isaac would have looked like, but anybody else wouldn't have. And that's the type of risk you run where you just make a character not just unrecognizable, but you, for lack of a better word, try to tokenize them, and then people have to go back to the source material and not find that same exact character, right? It's pretty lazy. But let me know what you think. I mean, I know designs don't have to be exactly like the comic. Believe me, I'm not saying that. There's room for change because some comic designs would look better on the pages than they do over here, but you can still adapt them so whether you know exactly, like you still know this character is that character. If that makes sense to me. I know I'm probably missing a few examples. Oh, like Storm. Another one, Storm. Storm does not look like Storm, right? Storm is normally a darker woman. But for some reason, the first casting wasn't right with Halle Berry. Then they got another one, Alexandra Shipp, just a bit of a younger version of her. But we know what she looks like. We know what she looks like. Stop. So just finally cast someone like that. And yes, there has been like race swaps from black to white as well, like with Fox. If you watch Wanted, she don't look like that. Fox don't look like Angelina Jolie, but okay, a lot of people didn't know. Nobody complained about it, right? And she don't look like her. Cecilia Reyes in New Mutants. She don't look like Alice Braga. So it gets very, very odd. They do really, really weird stuff like this, and I don't understand it. Let me know. Give me some other characters that I might have missed, or let me know if you don't mind it. If you do mind it, let's talk about it in the comments. Until then, into the nerd.